Thank you very much, Dr. Weber, and thanks to all the witnesses. This is an important subject. It's one on which the committee is looking for answers, and from my way of thinking, it's one we're likely to very seriously consider incorporating. I also think it's one where we need to be careful, because when we're talking about such large amounts of money and so many individuals, there are almost certain to be unintended consequences from whatever we do. So I like to do it carefully. Dr. Weber, for example, you talked about one unintended consequence that you found in your research paper might be we might raise tuition. Another might be, that we might find schools dropping out of the loan program. For example, Tennessee has 13 community colleges, 4 do not participate, 2 are dropping out now. If the tuition that, in Tennessee community colleges is now free, in California, Texas, and Florida, it's basically free if you're low income because of the Pell Grant. So are we likely to see, would one effect of a risk-sharing program be to cause many of the 2,000 community colleges, for example, to drop out?
I think that's absolutely a potential worry. While I haven't examined that specific outcome in my research, that is essentially the next step, is calculating how likely it is, based on the current financial situations of these schools, that the costs would essentially push these institutions over the edge. So while I don't have an answer on
we'd be interested in your next research. Mr.
Absolutely.
Mr. Silberman, let me ask you one suggestion has been that some of us have made, is that part-time students are entitled to the same amount of loan that a full-time student is. So a low-income student might get a Pell Grant for up to $5,600 and then be entitled to a full loan. Should we make more of a difference between part-time and full-time students in terms of the amount of aid that they're eligible to receive?
I would say yes, Senator. The basic premise is that we ought to give universities the opportunity to limit the amount of debt that students take on. And in circumstances where students are attending only part-time and essentially don't need living expenses if they're full-time working and going to school part-time, then I think giving the universities the opportunity to limit that would be an excellent mechanism of trying to lower overall student debt.
Is it your experience that the federal law gets in the way of the ability of colleges and universities to provide as much counseling as they would like to? Is that correct? Do you find that a problem, or is it just that universities just aren't doing a very good job of providing counseling to students about how much borrowing they should do?
I'm not aware of ways in which the federal law keeps us from doing the proper amount of counseling. I mean, I feel like at Strayer University we have an adequate counseling program, and we're very focused on it. So I'm not aware of that, sir, but certainly to the degree that it was existent, I would recommend that it be changed. I mean, giving universities the opportunity to counsel students on the impact of the loans they take on, I think, is an important part of getting them enrolled.
Mr. Kelly, what do you think about the idea of giving individual campuses the opportunity to decide how much of a federal student loan a student might be entitled to? Aren't there some risks with that? I mean, you might say that even in a great university, you might not want to loan as much to a drama major as an engineering graduate. You might do it by category, or you might even say that you're entitled, the risk sharing doesn't cut in until you borrow more than the amount of tuition. Say if you're at a community college and you already have a Pell Grant, and you even can get up to $5,600 for a $3,700 tuition and fee bill, and then you come back around and you say, well, I'm also entitled to a $5,000 or $6,000 loan. What is your thinking about that?
I think it's, in any risk-sharing policy, it's absolutely critical to find a way to disaggregate the costs that institutions can control from those that they can't control. And as you say, colleges don't have control over how much students borrow for living expenses. So I think there are two options. One would be to apply whatever the risk-sharing formula is to a subset of the loan balance, the outstanding loan balance, that would sort of separate out the loans that went to tuition. Another option is to allow colleges to limit student borrowing. I would just say the Department of Education currently has an experimental sites project underway right now that is allowing some community colleges, and I believe a couple for-profits, to limit borrowing. So I would look there for examples as to whether this policy is working effectively.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Senator Murray.